and legal areas. And one of the things that I have been really focusing on, especially right now during this COVID-19, is really focusing on preparing for the future and making sure that people are financially educated. One of the things that I've learned is that within, especially in the African American community or just in communities, period, we're not discussing or talking about finances. And when we get into situations such as this, such as the COVID-19, where we're seeing a massive amount of people that's passing away and a lot of people are without jobs, we're seeing that there is a big disconnect between financial education and what's in reality. So we want to really position ourselves to educate people, especially in the not just the African American community, but in the religious community and just in general, and really transform people's lives. This is it's a real pandemic and there's a financial hardship. So we have to really begin to conversate on the importance of financial education so that way we won't be in the bottom anymore, but we can be the head and not the tail, as you say in the biblical terms. So
All right, that's great. Later on, I want you to give us a little presentation. I was a little John. I happened to catch Greg on another panel, and he gave such a wonderful demonstration of his unique awareness of financial management that I asked him to share it with the group once we have an opportunity to talk with everyone. We are delighted now that let's talk to Wilhelmina Holder. Ms. Holder.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello there.
I was going to say, in talking to Gregory, he's absolutely correct, but what's tied to the financial aspect is the educational opportunities or lack thereof.
yeah,
And this is why a lot of times people of colors, communities of colors, are locked into financial insecurities and other insecurities as a result of the education they received or did not receive. So we need to look at it in a holistic manner. It's not that people of color don't want to work and don't want to achieve and don't want to have a strategy to live a successful, thriveful life. It's just that they've not been offered the opportunities because of structural racism built in the system, blocking their opportunities, their access to opportunities that would lead to the financial security that would give them a lifetime of opportunity.
That's great. That's great. And we want to definitely hear more from you as we go around the panel. Mr. Jose Ortiz is an individual. He's the Deputy Director of the Newark Legal Services and has really now given us a full volume of information that we can raise in our community in relationship to some of the concerns that they may have. And, Mr. Ortiz, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your work?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'd like to cite Malcolm X, who says, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So my family has always taught me education is the key. So I hope I'm able to educate everyone today on some very important rights that they have. Essex Newark Legal Services has been around since 1966, providing legal assistance to low-income individuals and families in Essex County in civil law matters. More than ever, we are needed today. We get many phone calls from tenants who are facing eviction. We're getting a lot of calls from individuals who are suffering from domestic violence. We're getting a lot of calls from individuals who need help with unemployment benefits, or welfare benefits. You name it, we're receiving it. But with this pandemic, it's difficult to get in contact with us. Our office is closed here at 5 Commerce Street, like many government services and social services offices. But we can be reached at by our phone number, 973-624-4500. I don't know if people can see it. I wrote it out here.
Yeah, you know what I did? I think I put together an opportunity for us to showcase that information.
All right, and our
I think I'll bring it up and
great,
share it.
Because we want to remind people, we're open. We're working remotely. You can apply to our services by telephone or by email. There you see our email address. If you need legal information, there's a great website from Legal Services of New Jersey, www.lsnjlaw.org. And there's also a statewide hotline from Legal Services of New Jersey, 1-888-576-5529. I just want to stress to those individuals who are tenants, there's a Governor Murphy banned evictions. Your landlord still can file court papers, but you can't be evicted until the state of emergency is lifted. And then there's 2 months after that before any eviction judgment can be enforced. So that gives you the opportunity to try to seek rental assistance. You should call the New Jersey State hotline number for that, which is 211, and see if you can get rental assistance. And also, I know there's other entities who are trying to pass or get past laws to try to help renters and homeowners. So keep posted on that. But this is a time where education is very important. You need to know what your rights are. And if you need legal assistance, you can always reach out to my office.
Great news. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Let's talk a little bit about higher education here, Mr. Smith. How are you doing today?
Good, everything is well. We're still in the virtual teaching and learning mode. School is, we're getting ready for the first summer session, which actually started today. Everything is online, and there's still time to go to essex.edu to sign up for classes, and also be aware, for senior citizens, there's some free tuition at Essex with guidelines. And if you're a person making under $65,000 in the county of Essex, there's also some free tuition with guidelines. So we hope to have a robust enrollment for summer one, and we hope that persons take advantage of a great education at Essex County College.
That's great news. And we also know that, have you been able to identify a direct number that someone can call? Because a number of us have a hard time navigating the websites, and, the unfortunate thing that's going on with the COVID is that you can't go into school. You can't really get a one-on-one conversation. And if you're having a problem navigating through the system, have they been able to identify a direct number that people can contact?
Well, you can always go through security, which is there 24 hours a day, and they have a directory of who's actually answering their phones, or who you can directly go to. That number is 973-877-3312. And most of the security officers working the desk will be able to tell you, what number you can call to get some direct service. That's 973-877-3312.
That's beautiful. Okay, that's great. And I'm sure we're going to have a number of other issues that we can elaborate on. But let's have an opportunity to hear from Rick Robinson. Rick, and you have a couple of items that you wanted to discuss today. How are you feeling today?
I feel great. First, I want to thank Jose Ortiz for being on his show. I worked under Jose for a number of years, and he has been one of the main reasons why my inquiries have been somewhat attributed towards being educational and seeking facts. This man is a credit to our society. John Smith serves on the board as the NAACP representative, but Mr. Deputy Director, Mr. Ortiz, has spoke before the NAACP in Newark, has been extremely persuasive, and can offer us a great amount of information regarding how to help the community regarding this situation pertaining to the pandemic. So I'm going to actually have my comments addressed later, but I need to ask Mr. Ortiz a couple of questions, if you don't mind, please. Number one, domestic violence matters are up. So we get calls at the NAACP office. What should a individual do if they are faced with domestic violence matters?
Well, this is one of the problems with the shelter-in-place order. Incidents of domestic violence is up, but it's very difficult for domestic violence victims to contact agencies because many times they're in the same apartment or the same house with the abuser. But if somebody is facing domestic violence, they should call the police. The courts are still, family court is still working on getting temporary restraining orders. Or they can call the Family Justice Center here in Essex County, or they can also call Essex Newark Legal Services. But right now, the reality is, and I'm hearing from many individuals, are that domestic violence victims many times have no options presently because of the shelter-in-place order. They're economically dependent on their abuser, and many times they may not be working or lost work. So it's a very difficult time for sufferers of domestic violence. And I want to be clear, domestic violence is very broad. It could be in a same-sex relationship. Even men can be victims of domestic violence. But there is help out there. So if you need help, call the police, call SS Newark Legal Services, and we'll try to connect you.
Well, you say that there is help out there, and I work down at the county jail, and I see a number of individuals coming in on domestic violence issues. Some of them are just no more than maybe saying something verbal, or to the extent of it, really not getting to the level of actual contact, but they're locking people up, just for the purposes of containing them in most cases. And then, because of the new laws when it comes to detention, a lot of them are spending 2 or 3 days in the system. And it just doesn't seem to be fair that we're not using other methods to try to resolve the problem. Have you had a high volume of complaints in regard to how law enforcement has been using the domestic violence issue to literally contain people for, most of the cases that are suspended?
Well, when you're dealing with domestic violence, there are statutory requirements that need to be met. I don't think somebody who just gets a phone call and says, I've been verbally abused, is going to be detained. Our law enforcement are trained to deal with domestic violence cases. They're trained in that area. At the Essex County Family Justice Center, they always have a prosecutor or a police officer to investigate all claims. So, like Rick started earlier, there's a factual investigation to verify the complaints. And when they are verified and there is evidence to demonstrate that the person is a victim of domestic violence, then there is guidance that police officers need to follow to make sure that the domestic violence victim is protected.
If I may, Herb, Mr. Ortiz is right. I just had a complaint of a domestic violence matter. What he just mentioned, call the police, set up a temporary restraining order, contact Essex County Family Justice Center, and look for an attorney, either at Essex North Legal Services or another area. I just do that with an actual person that actually had a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I actually want to, thank Mr. Ortiz, because if I didn't know about this, this person would be a victim of probably a more serious crime. So that practice is very necessary regarding these times right now. Thank you again, Ms. Ortiz. My other question, if you don't mind, is the situation regarding evictions. We have a lot of people in the community, even though there is executive orders from the state, from the city, people are actually engaged in eviction process. What should a tenant do to avoid the situation or seek help?
Well, if the tenant lives in Essex County, they should call Essex Noise Legal Services. If they have been illegally evicted in violation of the governor's ban, they can file an order to show cause with the Essex County Courthouse. They can do that electronically. Essex Noise Legal Services can help tenants who are eligible obtain that relief from the courts, ordering them back into their apartments. What COVID-19 has done is it holds up a mirror to the inequities in this country. Clearly, some people believe that they're above the law. No one should be above the law and no one should be below it. The law should be applied the same regardless of race, gender, status, or any other consideration. And right now, with the emergency that we're facing, we cannot have individuals displaced. We cannot have individuals who may be spreading the virus walking in our community. That's why the governor has placed that ban on eviction. It's a public health crisis. We'll figure out, how we'll get the rent paid. We'll figure out other ways to assist tenants to be able to maintain their housing. New Jersey has a critical housing crisis. It was bad before the pandemic. It's going to probably get worse after the pandemic. We got to try to deal with that housing crisis. Everyone should have the opportunity to have a home, to have a roof over their heads. So we need to all get together, work in a partnership to find a way to accomplish that. But right now, due to the public health emergency, no one should be displaced from the place that they're residing in actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, Herb.
Yeah.
Herb, and just to go back for a moment to the domestic violence, and I know you see it from a different perspective, than a person who is not directly involved. But, as a former law enforcement person, when you go to someone's house, and usually the determining factor for a person being detained is the person making the call, is that person in fear of their safety? If the person is saying, I'm in fear of my safety, whether it's male or female, the officer, the responding officer has to take some type of action. Now, and we know both that, sometimes that those calls are not legitimate, but, there have been cases where officers didn't take some type of action, and something, like Rick said, something more gravely happened to that person making the call. So, the officer is kind of, he's not being in direct, contact with that person before, the call is made, is making their determination on whether to detain or not to detain based upon what's reported to that officer in reference to I'm in fear of my safety, and if that's the case, the officer must take some type of action.
And it's really important that we recognize the fact that there are services available. And again, we'll put the numbers up as we go forward. Let me move ahead to Ms. Holder. who is here to discuss some of the relevant issues that are important that our community should be aware of, dealing with the education system. And we're talking more like K through 12 issues, Ms. Holder.
I was going to say all of the issues that we're talking about are really relevant and they're all interconnected.
Yeah.
We don't live in isolation, unfortunately. But yeah, some of the issues that, you know, we really are going to have to deal with as a community moving forward with the return to school for our youngsters is the trauma that the children and their parents and the entire community is facing. I think that is very, very key and important. We have the housing insecurity on top of the food insecurity, and then we're dealing with the traumatic experience of leaving schools and not the socialization that's necessary, the social emotional wellness of the families. And I think that is very important and has to be addressed prior to the reopening of school. And it should be done, personally speaking, I think, on a community level with support from the city as well as the school district and the communities, the churches, interfaith houses. Everyone should be involved with that because kids cannot learn and people cannot teach if they're not well. And I think that's something that I don't know if we're paying that much attention to. We're talking about how we're going to reopen the schools and sanitize and this and that and all that's well. But prior to them going back to school, I think there should be some initiatives taken so that we can talk about the wellness and how we build that up so that children can learn and teachers can teach. Because everyone's concerned about safety at this point.
So there has really been no proactive planning in relationship to making sure that everybody is like putting in their concerns in relationship to the new in regard to how we should be dealing with it. Because one of the things, and you know, I guess I'll throw it in there.
Well, Herb, I think that there is a lot of planning going on. There's a lot of planning going on. I understand on behalf of the city and behalf of the district, the Newark Public School District. Like I said, the problem is not the planning, it's what goes on prior to the implementation, which means now. The children who have to attend virtual graduations, for some that's a social emotional issue for them because they've had some of the benchmarks that we were able to enjoy taken from them. So that is impacting some young folks, and we need to address that aggressively. You know, how do we support children in that arena? As well as the children who K through 12, the younger children who are online, you know, trying to learn a lesson. In some cases, they may have an active lesson or active teaching. Other times, they may not. Some are dealing with packages, the dreaded packages. So there's no access to technology in those homes. So they're not really getting the true breadth of what we deem to be a high quality education. So we're talking about a learning loss, and that's real too. We have to address the learning loss that's occurring currently through now and what happens in the summer. And that's always a summer learning loss is consistent and constant prior to the pandemic. But now we have other situations on top of the pandemic. So we have inequities, people who may not have access to technology. And I understand the governor's mandate goes through June. But what about children who have to do summer learning and children who should be doing enrichment? Will they have access to hotspots, the Wi-Fi hotspots and other things so that they can access educational opportunities? All of this has to be a holistic approach to supporting the children. And it has to come from everybody. It has to come from the city, the Newark Public School District, the houses of faith, community folks. We all have to really understand where we are and what is necessary prior to opening that door.
Excuse me, Herb, if I could just ask Wilhelmina a couple of questions. Who's reporting to the school district in reference to, my first question, in reference to the health and safety of our children, who's monitoring if those rooms and equipment is being sanitized before our children go back to school in September, if they go back in September? And again, what can we do, or what can be done in reference to those children who getting packages that don't have access to technology, you know, and their learning is being curbed somewhat? What can be done for for those students?
Well, I know that the district is having, they're in the schools now. I know there's an aggressive plan of sanitizing and cleaning and trying to figure out social distancing issues and what school will look like in September. There is an aggressive plan that is ongoing right now. So they're sanitizing the schools now. They're in the buildings, cleaning and doing all the things that are necessary. Currently, my concern is that, and with the learning loss, that piece is a huge piece. There are children we know that don't have the equipment to learn in the way that they have to learn. And I think at the point that the parents would have contacted, and the school district should have reached out to the parents to do a survey process to find out who has what needs. And some principals have done that. Some principals have certainly, I have to give a big shout out to Charity Haygood, who has done that. And everybody in her school right now has access to technology and the tools they need to have the education continued. But other schools are not there. Some principals are on point and some school leaders are not on point. So that's a question of finding out who is doing what, and that the parents step up and call, because they're still working downtown, call that 733-733 number and say, I need a technology device. I need a device so my child can do the homework. Or if your child is doing the homework, we're having problems uploading the homework, or the homework hasn't been checked. That has to be done. That has to be an aggressive action that parents and whoever the caretakers are must take to ensure that their children have access to some kind of quality, because the learning loss is going to be huge if we don't do that.
So I have a question.
Has there been any planning in relationship to summer school?
Yes, I understand summer school will be taking place. We don't know what it looks like yet, whether it's going to be virtual or in person. I guess that's waiting on the governor and all of the officials to decide how we're going to proceed, but there will be summer school. Understand, mandatory for some students, optional for others.
So I have a question, and we talked earlier about the fact that some families do not have the technology for their children to learn, or even internet, because internet providing is crucial as well, because you can have a slow internet and not be able to really understand, especially when you have things like Zoom. In your opinion, who do you feel responsible financially to be able to provide accurate education and this resources for the children? Do you feel that it's the parents? Is it the school district's responsibility to make sure that every child is properly situated for this time? Is it government? Who do you feel should really be involved with the financial situations of technology and just resources in general?
Well, in the pandemic, and certainly when parents are losing their jobs and may not have the ability to purchase those things, obviously the law says that every child K through 12 is entitled to a high quality education. So the onus of that would have to fall on the local school district as well as the state. They do have a state commissioner of education and the state board of education. So those are the entities that are responsible to ensure that every child has access to whatever it is he or she may need to be able to enjoy a quality education. So I would not put the onus on parents, certainly not in the terms of a pandemic when there's financial insecurity. Now, some parents have gone above and beyond. Some of the parents of the secondary parent council, I know a few said they walked over to Kearney, to BJ's to get a device for their child. So we're talking about parents who may not be in a position to do that. That onus, that responsibility falls, in my opinion, squarely on the local school district, as well as the State Board of Ed and the Commission of Education.
So how do you monitor whether or not somebody is trying to just get over and trying to get, let's say, the internet provider or the technology, knowing that they have the wherewithal to do it? That's one. And the second question is, do you feel that the state and school boards have been able to provide for families? So it's a two-part questions, but first one is, how do you monitor? The second one is, do you feel that they have been accurately providing?
Well, when you say how do you monitor that people are trying to get over, I don't think anyone's trying to get over on anything. I think people just want the best for their children and to be able to learn. So whether I can buy a device or not, we have to do the equality thing that every child is given a device unless a parent said, no, thank you, I don't need this device. That's different. But every child has to be offered the opportunity, or every household or every parent should be offered the opportunity to access a device. So it's not about people getting over, it's about equity, what's fair and just. And the second part of your question was what now?
Second part is, do you feel that the school districts and government have been able to provide resources?
Well,
Do
it's
you find
obvious.
them being, is it effective?
Well, it's obvious that they're challenged. They're probably, and I want to be fair, they're probably doing the best they can do under most circumstances. I don't think people go into to harm children intentionally. I just think because this pandemic came about at the time it did, it certainly did what your father said, is highlight the gross inequities that have been here all along. These things occurred before the pandemic in terms of what was fair, what was just, and what was equitable. So I think that they got caught like all of us did, and they're trying to figure it out to the best of their ability as they go along. And sometimes they're doing a great job, and sometimes they're not. It depends on the districts, such as in Livingston, I'm sure they're not having the conversation about how many children have access to the devices or Wi-Fi to be able to teach their children. Where that looks different in Newark, where we know that we have 70% of the people are renters, and most of the people earn under $30,000 a year, and most of the people don't have access to technology. So that looks a little different for us. So then I think whatever needs and resources are, as I said in the classroom, the greatest need, wherever the greatest need is, you put the most resources to be impactful.
Let's talk a little bit about criminal justice. Rick, what's going on?
I want to first thank Wilhelmina Holder for actually giving us that the situation that's going on in our city. Is pretty much evident that this is a problem. But I'm praying that we get the help that we need pertaining to municipal, county, and on the state. So criminal justice have a number of issues. Locally, the police officer was relieved of his duty and pretty much assigned to a desk job. His gun was taken away from him because he actually exuberated excessive force on an individual, which is being looked at by the Civilian Complaint Review Board, along with different departments at City Hall. The matter pretty much is serious because I think the gentleman is going to actually retain an attorney. On the state front, I drafted an op-ed regarding the situation that's happening at Etna Mahan Prison regarding women prisoners that are being raped and sexually abused. The Department of Justice issued a report in April, and there was a Senate Law and Public Safety hearing that was actually chaired by Senator Linda Greenstein, and their findings are the same, that there's a big problem with our New Jersey state prisons in regards to there's only women's prison. So my op-ed pretty much alludes to the fact that this problem has been occurring for decades. You know, and I'm not talking about 10, 15, I'm talking about more than 20 years at this women's prison. My op-ed alludes to the fact that it's not the fault of the current commissioner. The current commissioner, Mr. Hicks, has been was Senate confirmed in January of 2020. So it's obviously not his problem. It is the problem of accountability, hiring, retraining. So my op-ed is going to speak to the fact that we need to actually do more for society regarding the office of the governor, the New Jersey legislator, they drafted laws, and New Jersey Department of Corrections. They can't do it alone. So maybe civilians can weigh in and be compensated adequately where we can actually stop this. There is no way in our society that women should be raped in prison. How would you expect a woman prisoner to learn from her mistakes if she's being taken advantage of on a daily basis? Sexually. There is no way. It's hardly, if you ever seen any woman who was raped or sexually abused, they are traumatized for a lengthy period of time.
Your lifetime.
They are mentally unable to deal with basics, emotionally unable to deal with basics. Problems for their families, problems for their friends, problems for their children. So my op-ed is going to go to New York Times, New Jersey Advanced Media, different patch.com, tap into, and I'm going to request another hearing because this matter needs to be addressed. There is no way in God's green earth that you should have women being raped by state salary paid employees. That is unconscionable. So my op-ed will be actually distributed at the end of the week, and hopefully we'll have some favorable discussions on the next show where we'll seek the assistance of the governor's office, the legislator, and the New Jersey Department of Corrections, along with other credible civil rights leaders in the state regarding something needs to be done.
All right, we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. One of the things that I wanted to navigate this conversation in time for was about 5 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, maybe a minute of time, Greg, that you can give me a little financial report and a little bit of that stuff that you was doing with some of the other individuals here who are helping to bring out information, what's important about financial literacy. And just to make a note, on my Facebook page, there was a advertisement that came across saying that caskets are now around $1,200, meaning that you can use your COVID stimulus check to bury yourself if you want to get out here and get involved with some investments. You say what?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I've been seeing in general is that this COVID-19 has really highlighted the financial situation in America. And I know I say this constantly within the platform, but it's the truth. As I sit down with people, I'm realizing that not only are we really not putting our finances in order, but we just don't know how to. And the reason why, because we just don't know how money works. I sat down with a person and asked them, just a basic question about their 401k. Didn't know anything about it. And it was a young gentleman, but it is millennials. And I asked, well, did his parents teach him about 401ks? No, his parents never taught him. Why? Because most likely their parents never taught them how finances work. So what we have created now is a generational curse of financial illiteracy. And it's not the fault of anybody. We're not learning it in the educational systems. I actually got my bachelor's degree in accounting, never learned about finances, which is ironic because I'm in the studying about finances and never learned about personal finances, how to budget, how to save, how to understand what inflation is. And as a result, we are creating a repetition of a poverty mindset. I do agree, and Wilhelmina said it earlier, there is the need for educational advancement, especially when it comes to getting your higher education, bachelor's, master's degree. But even with those degrees, I speak with a lot of people with higher education, and they just don't understand because we're not educated. So what we wanted to do is that we wanted to be able to, and just so that you know what I have been personally doing myself, is just giving everybody free consultation to just be able to analyze their finances, to know exactly where they are, where their position stands, so that way they can actually acquire wealth and financial independence. And we're trying to do it in a unique and innovative way, very creative. Why? Because we realize that sometimes financial education is very, very boring. I get it. I took classes in it. But we want to make sure that people are enjoying learning about finances, giving them platforms. Matter of fact, I'm going to share real quick the scene, and let me see if I have the ability. Do I have the ability to share? I think I do. Perfect. So basically, this is a website that's been created by our organization, which talks about how money works, and it plays a video that shows the importance of financial literacy. And people can actually guide and take a test. We have 5 questions on here, and you're supposed to at least be able to pass 3 out of 5 questions. Ironically enough, people are not able to get past the first one. Why? Because we're not educated, and it showcased the lack of knowledge that we have financially. So that is my passion. I know I'm actually on my Facebook page, Ask Greg Strategy, shows the video. I'm passionate about this. Why? Because if we don't do something now, then we're going to continue with the same generational illiteracy of our forefathers. And that's not where we want to do. We want to be able to enhance the next generation, not put them in the same financial position that they are before. I'd say, yes, you can purchase a casket, and that's great, but the mindset is about final expense and not about leaving a legacy. We're not actually crafting things like life insurance to leave a legacy for the next generation. And the reason why is because many people's like, I don't want to leave anything for my kids. They're just going to spend it. Well, how about changing the mindset and saying, how about this? I want to leave a legacy because I taught my kids what to do with the finances. So
Wow.
that's just the mindset that I want to really break and be able to transform our community so that way we can be in a position of wealth and not in the position of poverty.
Let me talk a little bit about the financial situation with a number of individuals who have the 401k. Some are going to be transitioning into retirement, and some are going to be transitioning into no job at all. But the fact of the matter is that there are individuals who will continue to be working. And there is a method that you were telling me that individuals can take their 401k, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's start with what is the vehicle first. It is called 401k, 403bs.
Parents, you know.
A lot.
Hey, John, since I don't get that kind of stuff, why don't you tell me a little bit about what we were talking about?
Great.
Oh.
This is great for a son teaching father. I love it.
Oh, yes. Oh, you'd be surprised the conversations that we have at home. And it's like, what the heck? I wish I would have learned this before. I was like, I wish I would have learned this before. So a lot of people are not aware of that. With the CARES Act, you have the ability to withdraw portions of your 401k up to 100,000 without any type of penalty. However, it has to be used for COVID-19. So I want to not talk about that per se, because quite frankly, that's really supposed to help you in terms of financial difficulties during COVID-19. However, what I do want to talk about is the fact that a lot of people think about the 401k and the 459 plans there's another one. Said 457. Anyway, what these vehicles are is that you are personally saving. What we find is that a lot of people, as they are retiring, are going to may outlive their money. Why? Because of medical advancements, because people are living long. So what's more people are afraid of is not just the fact that they're going to die early, but that they're going to outlive their money. So we have strategies and solutions where you can actually take your 401k, especially if you've already left your job or you reached that 59 and a half age where you're not having that penalty, that 10% penalty. You can roll them over into accounts that could generate you income not only for the rest of your life, but will also increase each year. Because one of the things that people do not know is that when you're on pensions and when you're on Social Security, you are on a fixed income. When you're on a fixed income, it may not adjust for inflation. So the cost of living is going to may go high, but your income stays the same. So we're dealing with that poverty. So why not take your income portion of your income, especially if you can, put it into a vehicle that not only would give you a rate of return without losing, but also give you that guaranteed income that can increase based off of based off of the market. So there's a lot of strategies. That's the reason why we sit down with people, not just to show them other options, but just to educate them. Because like my big scripture is, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So if I have this knowledge, why not give back to the community to be able to improve the condition of our community financially?
All right, my friend.
Gregory,
Listen,
what's your take on, may I ask a question? Do we
sure,
have
you
Oh,
can.
go
time?
ahead.
What's
Why
your
don't you give me
take
back
on this
the
notion that the president wants people to draw down on their future Social Security in order, can you explain that and tell us what the implications of that are? Besides, we all laughed about it, but
I did too. You know, let me put it this way. And what happens is that there are various bills that are coming out. One of them was talking about that, and it was supposed to be the fact that they would give $5,000 in exchange for delaying your Social Security. Let's look at the Social Security system already. By the year 2035, if you were going to be at full retirement, you're already going to be 30% down. Why? Because there's not enough in the Social Security. Our generation, the millennials, generation Y. I'm confused by the generations because right now we're all living on the planet together, but we don't feel that there's not going to be any Social Security. So for you to say you're going to delay Social Security, it's showing how broken our retirement system is. Our retirement system is very broken. A lot of people are depending on just Social Security alone when they retire. That is their retirement, and that's not enough. Social Security was never designed to replace your full income. It's only supposed to replace 40%. So let's see, you were replacing 40%. You're going to have me delay it, and we may not have Social Security? Incorrect. So I really pray, and this is bad because a lot of people are going to think of this as a saving grace. Oh my God, I'm going to have $5,000 at my discretion. At what cost? Even with the stimulus now, I always tell people, hey, look, we're printing out a lot of money. Where do you think taxes are going to be in the next couple of years? How do you think the value of the dollar is going to be next couple of years? So let's really educate ourselves to make sure that we're not dealing with tax risks. Because when you're dealing with 401ks, 403bs, all that, even pension plans, you're dealing with taxable accounts. When you take the money out, you're going to be taxed. If I'm deferring my money, I'm going to be taxed later. If my taxation is going to be high, guess what? I'm not realizing the wealth that I just built. So let's strategize now to prepare for the future.
All right, that's good news, my friend. And we're going to continue to hear more about this information that you have to offer. It's really been a great panel today. Wilhelmina, I understand you have some updated news that you want to share with us.
yeah, I'm not sure where and how, but I just got word that there will be able to have physical graduations in July. The governor just said that that's a possibility. It's a reality now if the districts are going to do that. So there's going to have to be a lot of discussions around that, what the social distancing look like, et cetera, and if some of the kids are here or not here. So that needs to be vetted, well vetted, so everyone can be safe, as well as enjoy their graduation.
But it's great. I'm going to take a moment and share something that that I did have. Let's see if I can get this done. Let's talk
yes.
a little bit about this.
Yes. Well, the goal of that is we wanted, a lot of times, a lot of the youngsters who are attending college are first generation students. And they'd like to know, especially now in terms of the pandemic, the COVID-19, what the experiences of college was like for them. And a lot of them are going to be virtual students first semester and possibly first year. So the idea was to put together a panel of high school students, well, not a panel, graduates from college, to talk about their experiences with the high school students so they get an idea of what college is like. I mean, we used to do this every year anyway, in terms of time management, what kind of things you should do to position yourself for internships, research opportunities, what happens with if you're not doing well, when do you withdraw from a class, so that you don't get hit with the loans, etc., and all kinds of things that that first generation students don't necessarily know about. So the idea was to have the alumni talk to them about course planning and things like that. And by the way, this flyer is being updated as we speak, because one thing we noticed, they did not get the link on how to register. So I'm going to have to send you the new one when I get it in a few minutes.
All right, that sounds great. And we have just another couple of announcements. John, you have any announcements?
No, but I did want Jose to talk about. I know that the governor has issued a moratorium on evictions, but after the moratorium is lifted, Jose, what happens to those persons in reference to them having to come up with the payment for those
Good question.
for that period that the moratorium was in effect?
Good question.
Well, that's the $1,000,000 question. There's a lot of bills floating out there for individuals to be able to obtain rental assistance. The homelessness prevention program has been expanded. There's been more money allocated to that. There are also discussions about, because presently in New Jersey, if somebody went to landlord-tenant court today and tells the judge, I agree, I owe rent from March to present, I don't have it, but I'm starting to go back to work, I need a repayment plan, the judge doesn't have the power to order the landlord to do a repayment plan.
Wow.
It would be up to the landlord to decide whether or not they're willing to do a repayment plan with the tenant.
Wow.
So many times in that situation, we advise our clients, you got to file for bankruptcy, because bankruptcy will give you the opportunity to pay back the debt, usually about 12 to 18 months. But you have to do that before the landlord takes you to landlord-tenant court.
Wow.
It's a little bit difficult, but my understanding is that there's presently a bill before the legislature from Essex County, I believe it's Assembly Person Timberlake, trying to authorize for landlords or for the courts to allow for repayment plans in landlord-tenant court. So hopefully that works out, and that'll be another tool that tenants can use.
Mm-hmm.
The earliest that a tenant could be in court in a non-payment of rent eviction action will probably be August, because under the executive order, once the governor lifts the ban on eviction, it doesn't go into effect until 60 days after the lifting of the state of emergency. So let's assume for argument's sake, he did that on June 1st. That means that they couldn't go to landlord-tenant court and obtain an eviction trial and a judgment until August. So that does buy time for people to come up with the rent money. The governor also allowed tenants to use their security deposit towards the rent arrears. So there are tools out there, and hopefully there'll be more tools down the line.
Great news.
And could you just expound on the Justice Center? What is the Justice Center about? And where is it located? And how does a person get in contact?
Right, you're talking about the Essex County Family Justice Center.
Yes.
They provide services for domestic violence victims. So there's counselors, there's shelter providers, there are police officers, there are prosecutors who are assigned there to provide assistance to the victims of domestic violence. They're located at the Essex County Court Complex. However, due to the pandemic, those buildings are closed. So to be able to get their services, like everybody else, we're all working remotely, you should contact them by calling them or by emailing them the Essex County Family Justice Center, and they'll try to get services to you.
You know, we're very happy to have Mr. Ortez on board with us. He has accepted an invitation to be with us on a weekly basis. It can be very supportive to his efforts and his outreach opportunities that he can be able to share with us a lot of information. And John, is great that you were able to get as much out of him today. And I'm sure that we're going to be delighted to hear more from him. It certainly has been an inspiring conversation. Ms. Holder, I've constantly asked you, but I know the kind of person that you are, but you're always never limited to being on our panel as often as you would like. And certainly next week is not going to be any limit for you as well. And this has been really a great way in which we can bring awareness to our community. We want to continue to be able to bring this effort to you in a positive way. One of the things that I want to do is make sure that everyone does get the kind of time that they're asking for. So for the last word today, we're going to hear from Mr. Gregory Glenn.
Thank you so much, Dad. And I just want to bring awareness of the fact that we're having a long-term care seminar. I just want to share real quick. We're having a long-term care seminar, asset protection, long-term care. It is a webinar that's educating people on how long-term care works. And like I said, my term is my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So if we can really educate people as much as possible on how finances work, because a lot of wealthy are leveraging this, why not our community? So want to go wild. Everything that you could find, even the video, is going to be on herbglenn.com. So that way you'll be able to go back to the videos, and we have an archive. You can go on the image profile. Image profile is just leveraging technology. My father is very good at doing that because he wants to promote as much as possible. So please go on herbglenn.com. Make sure that you look at the information that's there. You'll find this. And if you want to get the RSVP link, you can contact Herbert Glenn or even myself. You can find me at Ask Greg Strategy on any social media platform, or you can email me directly at askgregstrategy@gmail.com. So just wanted to share that, and thank you so much, Dad, for the final word.
Great news. Mr. Robinson, would you close us out?
Listen, I'm gonna offer some prayer here so y'all can bow your heads.
You're going to offer some prayer.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you know why?
You know, that's a
I'm
wonderful
gonna tell you something.
man.
I know a lot of people that are suffering. I want to actually thank Mr. Ortez Jose, because without the stuff that I learned from legal services and without having a passion for the people, I really feel that a lot of people that contact the NAACP would not be in the position that they are in now. John Smith knows how passionate I am, because one time I had people calling about me in Trenton regarding trying to help somebody who was being somewhat misled by her own union. So I actually want to say thank you to Jose for coming on our show, and I want to also thank Wilhelmina Holder, because this was an incredible show. This was an incredible show. So, you know, y'all bow your heads. It's going to be real short. Jesus, I want to thank everybody for being on the show, and I actually want to applaud the efforts of Jose Ortiz and Miss Wilhelmina Holder, enlightening us on such information that is so useful and important for our communities. So God bless everyone. Please be safe, and may God be with you.
Amen.
Peace.
Hey, with that being said, this is the Image
Thank you so
Profile
much.
Report. We're thankful for you being able to participate in this effort, and we hope to see you next week. Same channel, the Image Profile Report on Facebook, and also on the cable network, and from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. On Tuesday. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ms. Holder. Thanks, Mr. Ortez.
Thank you.
Guys, John and And
Thank you.
and Rick and Greg, you know, really I appreciate you guys very much. All right.
Thank you for providing this platform.
Hey, listen,
Yes.
man,
Yes, thank you.
we'll continue
Thank
to keep it going. Thanks
All right.
again. Have a good night. A good day, and a good night.
All
Yes.
Oh,
right.
listen, you know, I'm doing the prayer for Newark. So those of you who know how to get online with that, please get in line and support that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, take care.